Hola, 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 buenas tardes para todos. Buenas tardes, buenas noches. Es un placer para mí tenerlos aquí en nuestro miércoles de liderazgo. Veo caritas conocidas, veo caras nuevas, también me encanta. Rico tenerlos por acá. Hoy vamos a tener una conversación de la que hablamos mucho y hasta ahora quienes hayan estado con nosotros en el año 1, en el año 2, es una de las conversaciones más esperadas y una de las conversaciones que poco hemos tenido, que es la conversación del poder y la política. ¿Cómo es eso del poder y la política en las organizaciones? ¿Qué significa el poder y la política? ¿Y cómo se juega ese juego al interior de las organizaciones, sobre todo en estos días y en el futuro? Para eso traigo a mi invitado especial, Bob Dunham, que es nuestro fundador del Instituto de Liderazgo Generativo. Muchos de ustedes lo conocen, y para quienes no lo conocen todavía, pues disfrútenlo porque es una delicia de conversación. Eh, para aquellos que sean nuevos aquí también, quiero contarles que en la parte de abajo de su menú tienen una opción que se llama interpretación y ahí pueden escoger el idioma en el que quieren escuchar la conversación. Puede ser en inglés o puede ser en español. Andrés Novoa nos está acompañando el día de hoy en la traducción. Y bueno, y espero que tengamos una rica conversación acerca de esto que es el poder y la política. Bob, they are all yours and we can start.
Fantastic. Hola. Good to see you. If you have your camera off and you're not in an embarrassing situation, then I invite you to have your camera on so we can see each other and have a real conversation. And we have a very important leadership practice. It's the most fundamental leadership practice and maybe one of the most hidden ones. It's called taking a deep breath. Let's see if you can be a leader and take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. But it's not about the breathing. It's actually relaxing on the exhale. Why do we want to do that as leaders, as coaches of leaders? Because you cannot deal with the world if you're not open. And it's very easy to get in our stories and our reactions and our feelings and have tension. And when you have tension in your body, people cannot listen to you. They only hear your tension. So take a deep breath and open on the exhale. Get out of your head. I'll ask you on occasion to take a deep breath. And my invitation is not just to relax, although you probably need it in our world today, but also to open, to actually get out of your reaction in your head to see what's going on. Are you ready to play? Fantastic. Fantastic. So power and politics. Mary Bell invited me to have a conversation with you by that name. And I know that for most people, those words are something that are either unfamiliar or are negative. And most of us don't have a well-considered, chosen relationship with power and politics. In fact, one of the mainstream themes I have heard throughout my life is people who say, no, I'm a good person. Good people don't want power, only bad people want power. Well, I have a question. If that's true, how do good people get anything done? They need power too. So power is not good or bad. Power is a capacity for action. And if you want to make things happen in your life, if you want to make things happen in the world, you cannot do it without power. There are different kinds of power, and we're going to explore that. And here is perhaps the biggest lesson about power. It is shaping your life. It is shaping your future, even if you don't know it. And if you want to avoid it, you cannot avoid power. It is a phenomena of action. You are taking action or you're not. Other people are taking action or they're not. And it all produces power. Action and inaction affect power, affect the capacity to have something happen. Does this make sense so far? Then if we begin to see power in this way, rather than in some old story or prejudice or opinion, we see it's part of life. And certainly part of leadership. Unavoidably part of coaching. It's in the bones of organizations. It's part of your family. It's part of being human. So we need to re-understand power so we can have a relationship with it. And again, I'm going to say power is neutral. It's not good or bad. It's what you do with it that is good or bad. And if you have the ambition to have something happen in your life, to make something happen with your client, to make something happen with a team, to make something happen with your family, to make something happen in your relationship, or to change the world, they all require power. And so power is a legitimate, necessary, unavoidable domain of learning for leaders, for coaches, for managers, and human beings. Because if you're only in the domain of human beings, you're in the domain of power. And we're going to understand power in this new way. But how about the word politics? Oh, that's definitely got to be bad. Yo, those politicians, those bad people. I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I'll leave the politics to the other people. You leave the politics to the other people, then you become the victim of the world they create. You see, politics, like power, is unavoidable. It's a phenomenon of life, not the way the word is describing the people trying to get elected and doing a good or bad job. We need to step back from our interpretation of these words and look, what is the phenomena that is most deep about power and politics, that they're part of life, they're unavoidable. And if we can illuminate them, if we can understand them, it will empower us to take care of what we care about. I'm moving fast and high in this conversation. I'm covering a lot of territory, and we'll open up for comments and questions as part of the conversation. What is life about? We'll get to action in organizations and leaderships. But can I ask a question? Does action in organizations and leadership happen in life? Why do so many walk around thinking that I have a life and then there's action in organizations and leadership and it's in this other place? So just look at the crazy common sense of our culture. How we think about these things. What are the habits we have? And so we're going to do a reinterpretation here, not as a theoretical conceptual exercise, but a conversation to re-illuminate unavoidable phenomena that is part of your life, whether you're paying attention or not, whether you like it or not. If we don't understand action and its relationship to power, if we don't understand politics and its relation to power, then what kind of conversation are you in? Work hard and be good? That's kind of a default. Most people I run across coaching who work hard and be good are exhausted. They overcommit because they don't know how to build power. They limit themselves to the impact they have in life is only the effort and activity that they can produce alone. But if we become students here of power and politics as part of life, we'll see something deep and profound about being a human being and the capacity we have that is extraordinary. You see, we have the capacity to create the future and to make it happen. We have that capacity. The problem is most people are blind to it, so they're doing it anyway and then complain about it. I don't like this world. I don't like this future. But when we wake up to the dynamics of power, you see that if you're not in the game, if you're not building your voice, your choice in the game, you are part of creating the world and the future the way it is, and you can have impact or not. That's true in your relationships, that's true in your work, that's true in your leadership, that's true with your teams. Have I shaken you enough here to be interested in? Okay, Bob, what are we going to do with all this stuff? So let's look. One of the aspects of power is that you can choose and it makes a difference. Choice is a power. Everybody take a deep breath. Where are all the places in your life where you think you don't have choice? Every place that you think you don't have choice, you've given up your power. But Bob, there are things you don't have a choice. You know, I'm living in this body. I can't turn it in for a new body. I don't have any choice about that. Yes, you do. What's your story about this body? What's your relationship with this body? What's your mood about this body? What are you going to do with this body? You have infinite choices with this body. This is part of the blindness. Remember, I'm zooming out to answer some big questions. What is action? What is life? To come back to answer the question, what is leadership in a new way? And so you see, I just challenged you to take a perspective, a worldview that's different than most people's worldview today. And if I say it more directly, you always have choice. Always. Are we limited in what the choices are? Yes. But the menu of possible possibilities you can bring to any moment are unlimited in how you're going to relate. And so that's where I want to take you today. What's your relationship with power and politics and these weird... I'm going to propose to you that your choices have consequences. Leaders' choices have consequences. And so, what's our relationship with consequences? Do you care about consequences? Hello? Yeah, we care about consequences. Then how do you produce consequences? You have to have influence on the actions that produce them. This is the domain of leadership. To care is to have power. When you know what you care about, it helps you choose your actions, your strategies, your plans, your networks, your teams, your colleagues, your games. This is why we have to be aware of our choices. And when people ask me, well, what do I do with all this power of choice? I have a question for you. What do you care about? You see, if you don't find your voice and say what you care about, the world will fill the vacuum. They will tell you what to care about. They will tell you who you should be. They will tell you what you should do. They should tell you what you value. Are you getting the point? We need to find ourselves in this world of choice and be careful who we listen to. And if you listen to your care, you'll learn to listen to your heart. You'll learn to listen to your courage. You'll learn to listen to your ambition. If you're lucky, you might even listen to your soul. So let me go back to the theme that is power good or bad? So one way that we see people use power in the world produces negative consequences. And we see that and we say, I don't want to be like that, so I'll avoid power. But if you look at people you admire making things happen in the world, they have power too. What's the difference? What's the difference between the misuse of power and a positive use of power? How they think about power is part of this. Now, when we do consulting in companies and organizations, see, the power is going on already. This is one way we go into the organization and we look around and say, what is the game of power around here? Does the boss give orders and everybody just salutes? Is that the game? If that is the game, I can guarantee there is a lot of wasted opportunity in that organization. Because it means that only one person has power. And so if we do that, we want to begin to see what is the source of power, and how do people use it, and why do people avoid it? You see, power is a place where we face our fears, because you have to have a voice in the world. You have to take a stand for something in the world. You have to have opinions about important questions in the world. And so part of the journey toward power is finding permission to have a voice, but also taking responsibility. What is the way of observing the world, building choices in the world, for the sake of what? So let me describe the difference between positive and negative power in our perspective. Is this making sense to you in your life? I don't want to talk about theory here. Okay. You have power. How much? How are you using it? How are you growing it? What's happening with your power? So negative power, I'm going to give it a name, is associated with taking. It's associated with closing possibilities for others. I'm in charge. I'm the only one with the voice. And that is a use of power. It's the game of taking it from other people. And when we see leaders do this, they may even have successful companies. This is really weird. Sometimes companies that are doing well have this kind of crazy, rigid structure of power. They usually don't do well in change, however. What's the difference between the version of power that's taking? The positive form of power is taking care. It's taking care of something. And so when you buy something, the reason you buy something, and particularly if you're satisfied with it, is because it's taking care of something for you. And if you want to work for a boss that you think is a good place to be, and you have a chance to grow your skills and your future and your life, they're helping you take care. They're not just taking from you. They're not just taking your effort. You see the difference? And so there's something very profound in that the way you build power is to give it away. You create value for others, and they give you power in return. They give you their money, they give you their respect, they give you their votes, they give you their support. When you're taking care of what other people care about, you build power. Are you seeing the different place the power comes from now? It's not just structure or a title or taking away. It's your power of creating value for other people. One of the big breakdowns we found in our leadership journey is that people have spent a lifetime learning to sacrifice what they care about for a paycheck. And so their work becomes a drain. But, I have to make a living. I have a mortgage. But what if you're taking care of what you care about and it enlivens you, it excites you, it grows you, you play the game at another level. Excellence in leadership is not produced by extreme capacity for sacrifice. It's created by extreme capacity to care about what you're doing. And that includes taking care of yourself. Because this conversation often goes when we get into action, well, I need to do this, I need to do that, and we have a plan, a strategies, and it turns into a sacrifice ritual. I'm sure not in your life. I'm sure you're cultivating the flame of your power. So power, in the way that we're going to think about it, is, first of all, it's not a thing out there. It's an assessment. It's an opinion. It's a very important opinion. When people are elected in elections, it's because people think a candidate will have more power to produce the future they want than another candidate. It's a very important assessment. When you decide who you want to have on your team, it's because of the power they bring to the team. I hope teams built to the standard of how charming you are don't tend to be very successful. And what is this power they bring? The capacity to take care of something. And how does your capacity to take care of something show up in the world? In the domain of action. It shows up as your promise. What is your promise? What is the value that people hold your promise in? That's your power. When people are in charge of organizations and they begin to be selfish and egotistical, when it's about them, they don't get a lot of power from their staff, from their team. In fact, they're walking in the territory of enemies, waiting to have a revolution. But when leaders take on the promise of the company, a promise is creating the future, and the promise is something we care about. That's why we talk about vision. Not as a poster on the wall, but as something that inhabits us as, yes, that's meaningful. That's why it's an important part of leadership. And when the leader begins to be owning that promise, not just seen as an individual, but as the promise, as the embodiment of the promise, then people will give their best to them. Wouldn't you? So you're beginning to smell here. Power is the capacity to make something happen Yes, it's skills that other people care about, hopefully that you care about. And the bigger promise you make, the more power you get in return. It's a different level of power to be very skillful and get a job and do it well, and maybe even get promoted. It's a different level of power than someone who's making a promise to create a company or a whole new product line or a whole new service or a better culture in an entire company or a new future in a field. And so if you want to grow your power, grow your promise. And if it's in an area you care about, it should be fun. This can sound so heavy. Bob says I have to grow my promise, and it sounds like a very difficult, long, arduous journey. No, if it's what you care about, what else is your life going to be about? If it's not growing yourself in the fields that you care about. So power. Let me identify that we have different types of power, different kinds of promises. One kind of power is called financial power. If you have a lot of money, you can do more things than if you don't have a lot of money financially. It's a form of power. One way to get financial power is to get investment. Is to have people willing to give you money because what you care about and your promise is so valuable to them, they want to be part of that. But that kind of power comes from what we call pragmatic power, the power of your promise, the power of what you're able to do. Not, everybody take a deep breath. This is a big one. Not the power of what you know. What you know has no power whatsoever. Nobody cares what you know. Your power comes from what you can promise and do and produce. And why do we have the fields of leadership and teams and management? Because you can make bigger promises with other people than you can alone. So if you want to grow your power to take care of what you care about by growing your value, you're going to make bigger promises if you can do it with others, if you can lead teams, create organizations, create games of investment. But you see, when you have know-how, pragmatic power, it brings financial power. And what are you going to do with financial power? Put your money in, dig a hole and put the money in the hole? No, what if we invested it in better education for our children? That would be power creating power. What if your clients invested in growing the leadership through learning of their leaders, of their teams? That would be financial power creating pragmatic power, new promises. And then we have symbolic power. Symbolic power is your reputation. It's what people trust you to do. There are some people, when they say, I'm going to start a new company, investors will come try to give them money because of their reputation. Symbolic power is the power of influence. It's the power of having a voice. It's the power of having a promise. It's the power of having a story. So in those three domains, if you're taking notes, Write down right now, what is my financial power? How much money could I get together to make something happen in the world today? For most of us, that's a new domain. We don't find a lot of people in our learning programs that's a big deal. When we do find people with a lot of financial power, usually they are having breakdowns with it. That's why they come to learn. What is your pragmatic power? What is your promise? How big is your promise? And this takes us to leadership power. Can you grow bigger promises than you can do alone by coordinating the action with others to take on bigger promises? That's kind of the foundation of our generative leadership game. How big a promise can you make in the world that you care about, that will be valuable for you as well as everyone else on the planet? And what is your symbolic power, your identity power, your reputation power today? If you went out in the world and made an offer today, how many people would accept it? And I'm not inviting you to make these assessments as a critique. I'm making these questions to you as a way to begin to see the domain, to see that you can grow all of these. You want to grow symbolic power and financial power? Then start with your pragmatic power, start with your promises, start with your learning. This is also fundamental to our mission in the Institute. We help people build their pragmatic power so they can grow their identity power and their financial power and their impact in the world. You see how it's all connected. But we have to be an observer. We have to be aware of the phenomenon of power in this way. And this is the power that's positive. It's the power to take care, to create value for others that you care about too. That links the best part of being human into our games of action. And when this is missing in our client companies, what does it mean? It means there's a lot of wasted opportunities. So we have an opportunity to coach executives and CEOs and business owners to show them the games of power that would grow their power by growing the power of their team. So politics, how are we doing with power so far? Do you see you have power? And my invitation is if you have ambition and if you care about something, if you care to have something happen that's not happening, that's an ambition for power. That's a positive place to look. And you can do it with others. Everybody take a deep breath. You all look so serious. The word power, I think, is too heavy. We should change it to games or something more charming, I think. But what is the invitation here is you can grow your power to create the future. You can grow your power to make bigger promises. You can grow your power to have impact in the world. You can grow your power to have an influence and impact on the lives of other people, on the success of companies, the effectiveness of teams, and the capacity for people to discover their care and create a good life. That's power. Politics. Oh my God, Bob just whipped my head around with power. What is he going to say about politics? Politics is a conversation. It's not bad. It's unavoidable. So I want to emphasize again, you cannot avoid power. It's shaping what's happening around you. And you either get to play, you either get to lead, or you get to be at the effect of power that's being exercised around you. What are politics? Politics is a conversation of design. Politics is, oh, we have someone with a young one. Politics is the conversation about who gets to have what conversation. You see, if we don't know who gets to have what conversation, things get very messy. In an organization, for example, who gets to authorize the budget? Who gets to authorize the project? Who gets to say who is hired and who is fired? If we're not clear about who's going to do that, then there's competition. And there's a lot of moods and opinions about the whole thing. It gets very, very messy. When you walk into a company and it's full of bad mood and resentment, one reason is because it's not organized well to know how we get things done. Who gets to say what about what? So how does politics arise? If you have two or more people, you have politics. The politics of two people is called marriage. Or maybe that's the breakdown of politics. I don't know. But you cannot avoid it. And so politics is the conversation about the conversations. Who gets to make the declarations? Who gets to request what? Who gets to promise what? Who gets listened to? It's all politics. Politics aren't bad. You can only have good teams and good organizations with good politics, good political conversations. How do you build trust? You keep your promises. Those are assessments in politics. So we need to change our relationship with these two words. We want to cultivate power, to take care, to grow ourselves, to grow the value we offer others, and to grow a better world. That's a game of power. How do we learn those forms of power? And politics, probably one of the very first assessments that we make when we go into a client situation is, what's the politics? We go into companies where they're being run by family members. You know, the family members are running the company. The politics are frickin' crazy. Because in the family, everybody thinks they get to have a voice about everything. And it's harder than hell to get anything done. Unless they learn the conversations of politics, of good design. And so, where do power and politics happen? They happen in networks. So I have a question for you. If we grow our power in networks, where our identity has value, and we're cultivating our promises, and we're joining together with others to make bigger promises, What are your networks of power? What networks of power are you participating in? And if you're not aware that you're participating in them, you see, one way to participate is to drop out. I'm not going to spend time in that conversation. Then other people will make the decisions. You want to grow your future, you want to grow your offers. One of the first places that we learn in generative leadership to build your power and your contribution in the world is to be able to grow effective teams. That's a power. That's a more valuable offer. And so if you haven't built these networks of power, I have an invitation for you. Start. What is a network of power? It's building relationships in conversation about value, offers, possibility, creative projects, learning. When we have people in our learning programs, we grow them to embody the skills of making bigger promises with teams. And by doing that, they, as a community, they have created a network of power. And then when they invent projects and offers, and guess what? They get to have a conversation of politics. Well, who's gonna get to say what about what? You see, it's unavoidable. And are you interested? Is this a game you want to play? Growing your value, your impact, your promise? Then you have a challenge. Na-na-na-na. It's called your body. It's called your emotions. Because when we go into the conversations of power, you don't have to be tough or nasty, but you have to take risks. You have to speak up. You have to have a voice. You need to make requests and offers that can be declined. And if there are enemies in your game, you're going to have to face them. If there is resistance in your game, you're going to have to overcome it. If there's bad mood, you're going to have to intervene in it. This is something we call the we space. It's beginning to take on promises for the promises of others and with others, including their mood, their identity as a group. And it can be great, but this is where we need to know what the missing conversations are and how we're going to move toward them. So, have we done a reinterpretation here of power and politics to something accessible, human, that you cannot avoid them? So we want to be students of them and see how we can use power and politics as conversations to do the best things that can be done by human beings, to find what we care about, to coordinate action to take care of what we care about, to create new value, to create better teams, better companies, better communities, better worlds. So what are some of the practices in power and politics? They are fundamental to the practices of leadership. One is, what do you care about? That's a question. We need to be careful what your relationship with questions is, because a lot of people take questions like that and say, oh, I don't have the answer. I won't pass the test. I didn't read the book. This is not a question to pass. This is not a question to have a right answer. This is a question that will determine the rest of your life. If you don't know what you care about, then you are drifting. If you do know what you care about, then it's a guide to where you want to take care, where you want to build your power, where you can make your contribution. What are the breakdowns in the world? See, leadership is not just about making good things happen and then having it all feel good. Leadership also includes dealing with all the crap that no one else wants to deal with. I remember when I was young in my management and leadership career, and I said, oh, if I got promoted, then I could make things so much better because I would make the right decisions. It'll be easy because I know what to do. And then I got promoted and I found out that in the leadership position, I got to deal with all the nasty stuff no one else wanted to deal with. And I had to get good at it. Distrust, bad moods, poor performance, resistance, lack of commitment, culture. We own it all. And what's the gap between your vision, your care, your ambition, and what's really happening? That is the world calling to you to bring your leadership, to bring your voice, to build your power on behalf of the promise. You see, building power is not for you. It's for the people you serve. And that's what life is calling. And so, everybody take a deep breath. We've opened a conversation with a terminology that is not discussed very commonly. Oh, how are you doing in your network of power? But I invite you to look from this point of view and say, this matters because it's a blind spot in our culture. People are walking around not even paying attention. They think if they ignore it, it's not going to bother them. No, if you ignore it, your life is being shaped not by you. What is the gap between the value and innovation and aliveness and meaning that a team or a company could produce and what they are producing? That's the opportunity for leadership. And if we look at that gap, it's not just the gap out there in a team or a client. How about in your own life? That's where we learn the deepest, is in your own life. Maribel, you invited me to have this conversation. How are we doing? You have a question for me? Is there something you would like me to go deeper in?
Yeah, well, one of the most important reasons my clients talk about power and politics is because normally they don't feel they are in the ring or the politics of their company, or they don't have the power. The power, I think you explained really clearly, and I like the way you explain it, because if I grow my promises, I can grow in my power into the organization. But it's not the same with the politics. Like sometimes the politics are, I will say, rare into the company. So how can I read the politics? How can I be part of the politics of the company? How can I, for example, deal with the what you were saying, like that rare culture of the politics in the high ranks of the company, if I want to keep growing in my career?
Beautiful. So as you look at the network of politics is again, is who puts who in charge of what, who gets to have a voice about what. It's unavoidable. And so when you go in, either externally or even internally as a leader, you look at this network of politics and you say, here's what I care about. Who else cares about that? Or who else is affected by the areas I get? For example, one of my big cares when I started my leadership journey was that my organization was failing. And it was horrible. It was a feeling of resignation. People were leaving the company. And I said, I want to work in a place where we're succeeding. So I took on big roles, but that was my ambition. I wanted to have the human experience of being in this company being enlivening. And I had to look around and say, who could align with me? And who's going to resist me? So in politics, you're going to find you have allies, people who will join with you with a shared care, and you will have enemies, people who are playing a different game. And you need to be ready for how to play the game in either way. And when you look at shifting the culture of an organization, it's a beautiful dream to have a positive vision of a culture of an organization. But you know what? The culture only happens the way the commitment in the bodies of the people act out. And so this takes conversations, this takes invitations, this takes actions for who you're going to play with. And a way to build your influence and voice in the domain of politics is with the power game. Make your bigger promises, you get power. But then you need to learn to be in the political conversation. Being the great performer is not enough. You've got to be able to listen to people and what they care about and what their game is and what their view of power is. You need to invite them to a new framework and have that be something they're not only excited with. But what you will find in big companies, when you invite people to become part of the legion of angels, they will be afraid. They will say, oh, the dark legions will hunt me. And so it's a bigger game. And as part of this game, this is another one that requires a deep breath. Take a deep breath. When you get ready to play this game, you can make a huge, huge contribution, and you will always have enemies. Always, no matter what. You will always have resistance. So don't give in to the fantasy that if I were just in charge and gave orders, or if I finally win, that it'll all be perfect. No, it'll be good, but it won't be perfect. Include it all and go home and celebrate and eat ice cream, even when it's not perfect. And the big thing about Maribel's question is, because this is a new conversation that people are not educated to, Most people have no experience with the conversation. They have not even seen that the conversations exist. They're uncomfortable with the conversation, and they don't know how to learn. If you want to get into executive coaching, you can't do it without this dimension well. And it's an invitation. It's a place to learn. It's a place to be in practice. How do you practice at the beginning? You observe. You don't go out riding your horse ready to have battle. You observe, you look, and then you begin to find the voice within you that's willing to question, assess, offer, propose, and be told no. And then you're ready to play. What do you think, Mary Beth?
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. I live here in the Bay Area, and I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be responsible of the teams because I don't want to deal with the bullshit politics inside a company."
Yep.
So I always have conversations with them about, yeah, politics is part of the organization. Politics is part of the what you were saying, who says what, you know. And normally they do that because politics are, you know, like difficult, raw, is, you know, like it's rough, is you need to have like the nerve to get into that conversation, no, or to get into that net of conversations. So how will you do that, Bob? How do you do that?
The first thing is to listen. And the second thing is to speak about care. You need to, you cannot just go around talking. You need to listen to how, you know, where people are at and what's going on with them, and discuss what they care about. But when you begin to have a vision, you can offer questions. You can even form little groups to have discussions about some things. Early in my career, I got into the leadership and management game when I was a computer programmer. I just wanted to write good code. I didn't want to have to deal with all this power and politics stuff, but I saw the organization was a disaster. And it motivated me. Well, I'd rather learn how to be a good manager than hope that someday somebody would save me. And so I began to have conversations about what I cared about. I said, let's have a conversation about something that's missing around here. Let's talk about excellence. And I didn't have a proposal. I didn't have a solution. I was just inviting people to the concern. And because of that conversation, I wound up being invited to a role later that I think came from having built an identity of someone who cares about excellence. And they gave me a role of being a program manager. I was responsible for the work of 250 engineers. And I'd never done it before. It was a crazy, crazy journey. So this is about listening and beginning to build your assessments and build relationships. And not only relationships in the company, but relationships in the profession. Relationships outside the company. Your role, your job, your career should always be bigger than your company. If you don't make your promise in your life bigger than your company, it will become your prison. But when your promise is bigger than the company, it gives you courage to bring true, honest assessments and value. And so as you're going through these phases, you know, Maribel's question is not answered well with an answer. Like, here's the thing to do. It's actually a new practice. You actually need to be with people in the conversation about what you're learning. This is why the people who are in senior positions often say they had mentors along the way. They had people to have these conversations with. It's not simply learning a theory. And then find a place to practice. If you're not ready to have this voice in a company, then maybe you can do it in the a community club or some place that you can practice. Let me open for comments or questions here. What are we provoking here with this new view of power and politics and how it's an unavoidable part of all organizations? You certainly need to know that dimension to be an effective consultant. And in your own career in leadership, it's a powerful way to look and say, am I cultivating my power of conversation for bigger games?
You have two questions in the chat. The first one is Manuel. Manuel, would you like to open your mic and make your question? And then we have Germán.
All right.
Dale, Manuel.
Awesome.
Sí, claro. Gracias, Bo, por la charla. Buenas noches con todo de acá de Lima, de Perú. Bo, comentaste que entregar poder a otros es construir el poder. Y en organizaciones estaríamos hablando de delegar. A mí me cuesta un poco delegar ciertas responsabilidades y quisiera, por favor, en tu experiencia, una dirección aquí, ¿no? Gracias, Bob.
Yeah. First of all, I like Lima a lot. So, hello, Lima. Yes, I've always enjoyed my time in Lima. So when you delegate responsibilities, when you say it's difficult, for most people it's difficult because I'm not sure I can trust they'll take care of it very well. I'm not sure they're going to do a good job. And this is an important part of the leadership development path, is you have to grow people that you trust with promises. And so it's not about their competence, it's about you saying, oh, I need to grow this person. I need to teach them. I need to show them the standards. And so I don't just delegate and walk away. I take them in and I ask, I really have a high standard for this. I want to support your professional development to meet it. So we're going to work together until we have clarity. And then I'm going to check in with you on a regular basis. This is called a skill that we call being a customer. You need to learn to be a customer for promises. This is not a trivial skill, because you may be the only one who knows a particular skill or process that needs to be done in your company. But if you don't teach others to do it, then you are trapped. You can't grow. Your time is already taken. The good leader grows the team around them. Takes time, this is one reason we say that leaders need to learn to coach. And coaches need to learn to lead, because you have to grow your people or the team doesn't grow. And so that you're unsure what you can trust when you delegate now, that's normal. But now it's learning, how do I grow my people? How do I teach them in a way that they become more valuable as a professional because I'm growing the promise that they can hold. And it may take time. There's a whole set of conversations that we can go to. But that's my basic answer, Manuel, is you to be an effective leader is not simply to be good at what you do, it's also to grow the people around you, to build the promises that you can trust. And that is giving, that is a giving of power, and they're going to be return the power with loyalty and support and ownership. Is that helpful?
Yes, definitely, Bob. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Take care.
Germán.
Who's next? Germán.
Hey Bob, hola a todos.
Hola.
Yo estaba aquí como pensando y un poco en viviéndolo en carne propia, que cuando esos poderes crecen, cuando el poder financiero crece o el poder de influencia crece, yo puedo estar asumiendo que estoy como taking care de mi care. Pero ¿cuál es la brújula que me muestra que ese poder sigue alineado al care y que no se está como corrompiendo o haciendo cosas que parecen alineadas al care, pero que pueden estar fuera del care?
Beautiful, beautiful question. You know, this question is such a revelation that in our culture, we first of all, even telling people that what you care about is important is new for most people in our culture. And then the question is, do you know what your care is? It's not a trivial question. Most people have a journey of exploration for that. You see, we can get tranquilized. We can say, well, I'm growing my capacity to make a lot of money. So then I'm satisfied because that takes care of what I care about. For most people, no. Making a lot of money is a side effect of something else. And when people sacrifice their life to make the money, often their life is crazy. They get divorced. They become alcoholics. It's amazing how many people who've really made it financially get into a lot of trouble. Because what people really care about is not making money. Why do you make the money? What are you going to do with the money? What positive impact are you going to make with the money? That's a very different conversation. And so we can get tranquilized with just winning a game, but it doesn't mean it's the game of meaning or the game of what truly satisfies you. And so the two places I would invite you to look in this exploration of care. One is, are you sacrificing? Because sometimes the people who really do well for a while at something is they sacrifice. They only work, they only do the thing. And that's not a positive sign. You see, you can work a lot because it feeds you, because it's meaningful. That's very different than sacrificing. So if you're sacrificing, you're probably disconnected from your care. Make sense? And the other is to watch out for the distraction of stimulation. Oh, I'm winning. I'll do more of that. It feels good to win. Is it what you really care about? If you died tomorrow, would you be happy with your life? No, but I'm winning. See, winning can become a tranquilizer. And so this is another conversation. This is going deeper into the question. You see, care is associated with your aliveness. Am I satisfied with my life? Am I satisfied with my contribution? And the other place is relationship. Human beings are made to be in relationship. Some are not, and they're considered unhealthy. Narcissists, sociopaths, they're not healthy. And when we have success without relationship, that's another sign that you may not be traveling with true care. You may simply be driving, being addicted to some kind of success. Is this resonating? Yeah. Maribel, please.
Well, alguna vez, Germancho, alguna vez teníamos esta conversación con Bob y él me decía algo que a mí me encantó y llegamos a la conclusión de que te puedes dar cuenta de cómo estás usando tu poder cuando estás construyendo o generando y cuando estás destruyendo. Y creo que eso que es un poco el resumen de lo que él te estaba diciendo, y es los líderes vivimos en balance o en el balance de nuestros diferentes dominios y de nuestros diferentes cares. Y parte de lo que queremos es pues tener productividad, tener buena vida, tener balance, estar construyendo relaciones, estar construyendo el mundo que queremos cuidar, queremos generar legado, queremos seguir creciendo. Cuando tú ves que alguno de los factores que construye o alguna de las condiciones de satisfacción que construye ese mundo y ese balance empieza a destruirse, es porque hay un espacio de poder que no está conectado con un care. Y yo creo que es la manera como puedes verlo. O porque te estás deconstruyendo relaciones, o porque estás destruyendo algo, o porque puedes estar construyendo algo más grande, pero estás destruyendo algo adicional. En ese momento te das cuenta de que tu poder y tu querer no están alineados.
Ok, súper.
A ti, por la pregunta. Ivonne.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is,
sorry.
let me just comment. This shows the danger of success. You see, Cancer, if you're a Cancer, if your success is destruction, you wind up dead. But you're very successful at being Cancer. So you have to be careful of what is success. No, success should be producing more life, produce a forest, produce vitality. Please, who's next?
Ivonne Casado, dale.
Iván.
Ok, pues bueno, I write in English in the chat, Bob, but I want to express my comments in, yes, but I want to express my ideas, maybe in Spanish. Andrés, please.
Sí.
Andrés es un mago en eso, no te preocupes.
Yo he trabajado durante 25 años en la misma compañía. He crecido y he tenido un plan de carrera exitoso, entre comillas, desde muy chiquita hasta tener hoy una responsabilidad reportándole al CEO de la compañía, tener el cargo de vicepresidente, 300 personas, 250 personas a cargo. Y siento que 5 años para acá encontré y trabajo todos los días, no por el negocio en el que estoy, porque ese es un accidente, sino porque amo crecer, amo el poder y creo firmemente que este poder me permite tener una sombrilla cada vez más grande para poder iluminar y hacer crecer a las personas alrededor mío. Y el día que lo encontré, hace 5 años, mi vida cambió y no lo hago solo en la oficina, sino en cualquier rol, como mamá, como esposa, como hija, como ciudadana, como vecina, y eso me satisface. Pero muchas veces mi quiebre viene, y creo que es lo que me ha permitido crecer, precisamente, y ser elegida dentro de un liderazgo dentro de mi propia organización. Pero mi gran batalla viene cuando siento que en este nivel de poder que es tan alto, mis pares tenemos diferencias frente a ese care. Y ahí siento que mi voz de repente no está lo suficientemente fuerte, mi cuerpo, mis emociones, para ser un poco más rebelde o fighter, o no sé, en tener estas mejores conversaciones, porque muchas veces mi juicio es que mis pares tienen poder para quitarlo, para no desarrollarlo, solo por ambición, y sufro cuando veo que hay muchas personas que no tienen las oportunidades simplemente porque no se les van a permitir el mundo en el que estoy. Entonces hay ocasiones en que digo, este es mi lugar, o yo debería estar detrás de la pantalla con ustedes, con Maribel, contigo, en otro lado hablando, y no aquí adentro. Pero todos los días vuelvo y me levanto y digo, no, aquí adentro es donde estoy dando valor, aquí adentro es donde puedo tener una voz de un futuro diferente para crearlo, para armarlo, para hacerlo. Pero batallo mucho en cada sesión con mis pares. Entonces un poco es cómo fortalecer mi voz, mi cuerpo para esta batalla en la que a veces siento que vivo y que me genera un poquito de insatisfacción o de frustración.
Beautiful. Beautiful. First of all, congratulations on your awakening that gives you so much energy and ambition. I believe we are most alive when we're creating, and you found your power to create. But you are at a new level now. You're at the level of power in politics. You're finding that even though I have power and I can make a huge contribution, and the conversations we talk about that play this game and that make the difference to have a voice and make they are the same conversations in the leader role or the coaching role. The coach simply is doing it to support the leader. And so you're absolutely right, it is the conversations. And so when you see your peers, there are some questions you can have for looking at how do I conduct myself. What do your peers care about? You mentioned that maybe they are playing the game for themselves. And so that means that they are not necessarily aligned with you on a bigger vision. And organizations in which the top people are self-centered have symptoms of cost, of waste. There are things that are not being done that could be done, or things that could be done better. And so sometimes you can bring up the point of view, well, we have this waste going on, and let's take that on. And it kind of reveals the need to create a different level of teamwork, of coming together and learning. Your reaction to fight probably is not a very effective strategy for producing enrollment. Let me say it this way. This has to do with staying present in the conversation, finding your care like the feet on the ground. This is what I stand for. This is why it matters. And find a way of articulating that it's hard for anyone to say no. Don't we care about excellence? Don't we care about people? Don't we care about growing and learning? Because those really are the places that we can come together. And don't fight about the details. Find the roots that are missing, that need a voice. And be ready for the dance that you're going to be declined. Being declined does not mean you've lost. You can be calm with the decline. The fact that your voice is being heard is going to make a difference anyway. And the person that you really want to influence is not your peers. You want to influence the CEO. So you want to begin to look at how is the CEO, how can the CEO be supported to make a better team? Rather than I'm just fighting inside the team. And so there's a bigger context You can zoom out and begin to see. And the manner of conversation has a body aspect to it that we call blending. In the martial art of Aikido, for example, when someone's attacked you, you don't fight back. You're just going to get bloody. You blend with the energy. You go to the side of the energy, and you use the energy of the attack to change the dynamic. This can happen in conversation, but it would take more time to play here. But are you seeing there's possibility here? Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes, Bob. Thank you, and maybe the main gift to me is the possibility and the opportunity to influence my CEO and have raíces. I don't know, have roots in
Yes.
terms
Sí.
of excellence, people, and
Perfect. Yeah. Then something can grow. Okay, Maribel, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, thank you. Let me compliment something here, or say something here, and I'm going to say it in Spanish too. Ivonne, este es precisamente el momento en el que la política es la conversación en la que necesitas entrar, ¿no? Entonces, ¿por qué te digo que es la política? Porque seguramente en la red de tus pares, primero iba a decir exactamente lo que te dijo Bob, no necesitas influir en tus pares, necesitas influir en el CEO. Y sin embargo hay dos maneras de darte cuenta si vale la pena o no vale la pena. Porque a veces en las redes de políticas, cuando estás trabajando con tus pares, te das cuenta quién tiene mayor influencia en el trabajo que está haciendo con el CEO. Quién tiene más oído con el CEO y adicionalmente cuáles son las condiciones de satisfacción que tu CEO tiene con respecto a el nivel de impacto que quieren generar y el nivel de impacto que quieren generar no solo en el interior de la compañía, sino en el exterior de la compañía. Entonces, para mí lo más importante o primer paso que puedes dar, como dice Bob, es empezar a escuchar cuáles son las condiciones de satisfacción, cuál es el tipo de impacto que quiere generar tu CEO. Si es un CEO nuevo, seguramente quiere generar un cambio en la compañía. Si es un CEO que lleva tiempo ahí, puede ser un CEO que quiere llevar la compañía a otro nivel. Y si es un CEO mayor, seguramente está pensando en cuál es el legado que yo voy a tener. Entonces, primer paso, escucha lo que es importante para él. ¿Cuál es su care? ¿Qué es realmente o cuál es realmente a lo que él le da importancia y cuál es el impacto que él quiere generar? De esa manera te vas a dar cuenta en la red política de tus pares quiénes son los más influyentes. ¿Ya? Y ahí entonces empezar a ver cuál es el juego político interior. Porque creo que si te alineas con tu CEO en lo que tú quieres, en lo que tú quieres influenciar y en el impacto que tú misma quieres hacer, puedes darte cuenta de dos cosas. Uno, de si estás en su equipo, o dos, si no quieres estar en ese equipo.
De acuerdo. Gracias, Maribel.
Ya. Super. Bueno, se nos pasó otra vez el tiempo volando. Una conversación bastante movida, interesante, igual que varias de las que hemos tenido. Podríamos quedarnos aquí hablando de poder, de política y del juego político y de poder al interior de la organización. Bob, como siempre, muchas gracias. Creo que podemos hacer una siguiente ronda de poder y de política y de cómo utilizar el poder para la generación y la construcción y no para la destrucción. Bob, do you want to close to say bye to everybody?
Well, the phrase that we end in our events is about power and politics. And the phrase is this: go out and create the future, because you are anyway. You can't escape it. So take it.
Súper. Gracias, Bob. Los invitamos a nuestra conversación del 3 de agosto. Como hacemos cada 8 días, vamos a tener una conversación muy interesante con Lina Correa acerca de cómo observamos la energía que se mueve en los sistemas. Vamos a hacer una conversación acerca de constelaciones familiares, pero cómo esas constelaciones familiares nos han enseñado a entender cuál es mi posición, cuál es mi jerarquía y cuál es la manera como utilizo mi propia energía de líder al interior de las organizaciones, pero cómo eso lo aprendí desde mi sistema familiar. Entonces, los espero dentro de 8 días. Va a estar también muy buena esa videoconferencia y nos permite vernos desde el lado energético del líder, lo que creamos, lo que provocamos y aquellas cosas que son transparentes para nosotros, pero que de todas maneras podemos cambiar, entender para generar un futuro nuevo. Muchas gracias a todos y nos vemos dentro de 8 días. Adiós. Bob, gracias. Andrew, muchas gracias por todo por tu voz, tu conocimiento, tu práctica.